evening, and welcome to the very first episode of the FTTC podcast, sponsored by Gino's Junk Removal Services, turning trash into treasures, one waiver pickup at a time. We are your new home for breaking news and breaking balls in the fantasy sports world. From touchdowns to tailgates, we've got it all covered with a dash of witty banter. I'm your host, Jason Stankiewicz, and today I'm joined here by the 2019 champion, the trading truth sayer, Mr. Roger Goodell himself, Mike Kokoris. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jess.
We are super excited to have you on here as the inaugural episode, get things kicked off. Obviously, we want to hear the tone from the top, and we're excited to cover some quick topics.
Yeah, it's good to be here. And tell me, Jason, did you have any previous broadcast experience, potentially WLTL? Because the voice sounds great. The delivery sounds really crisp right now. I'm blown away.
You know, I appreciate that. I sure did spend a couple years working WLTL, a couple years working some Villanova radio, and now we're making a late career return in the podcast.
There we go. So this was all intentional. It's all planned.
Yeah, exactly. I was trying to lose last year, just a real tank job to get this all figured out.
I mean, you did that at the draft alone. You didn't even have to simulate the season out. You were good to go off that draft. I was looking at it.
Yeah, you don't have to tell me that. I know it didn't go well, but that's a great place to kick things off. We'll start off with a quick recap of last season. So you finished 8-6. You had a decent playoff run, culminating in a nice third place for you. Honestly, quite a significant overachievement from the post-draft projections of 9th place. What was your key to really overachieving those projections and coming out on third?
It's a good question. I honestly think that I had a solid draft. I think I went RB. Got two studs, quite frankly, in Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb. Got a little unlucky with the kind of situation that Kyle Pitts found himself in at the third pick, but was able just to be scrappy through that. I think I picked up Garrett Wilson off the waiver wire. One man's trash and another man's treasure. He ended up being Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think I fleeced Nate somewhere along the line for Jamar Chase, and honestly built a team that I think my top 3 or 4 players were as good as anyone's. Let the chips fall where they may. Ended up knocking off Sam's so-called super team in the first round. I remained undefeated in first rounds of the playoffs. Entered my 3rd or 4th semifinal, so no stranger to making a deep playoff run. Ultimately, wasn't in the cards last year, but just another regional banner to hang above my fireplace. By no means is third place the expectation around NiceCatchBlancoNino, but I think it's a sign that even in a down year, you can expect big things from the Nino. So that's kind of how I'd recap the season.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I thought it was great management on your part. When I look at your draft, rounds 10 through 15 were really just lost. There was really no talent there. Garrett Wilson, a great pickup. I think you actually got him from me. He was one of my poor drops over the course of the year.
No, you didn't need him. You had depth. You didn't need good receivers.
I had only receivers and literally nothing else. So
it was
a tough year.
You didn't need really good players on your team. Did not need good players.
No. But honestly, a nice job bouncing back from the Kyle Pitts pick as well, because he was quite the disappointment.
Yeah, it was a fiasco. It's plain and simple. My room had him just grading out. I think we fell in love with the athletic grades, freak prospect, highest tight end drafted ever. And you just forget about how much situation really affects what a ball player can do. We had a lot of talking with him. We actually sent him through some mental health counseling. I think he averaged 2 catches before getting injured. Jury's still out if that injury was actually legitimate. My staff didn't seem to think so, but ultimately we did shut him down for the year, and I think we were better for it. Once we moved past the kind of Pitts fiasco, we were able to have catch a little bit of a second win.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, things went pretty well for you. Ultimately, the playoffs were a pretty tough landscape, and it was interesting to see Roadrunners Naz come out on top. There's been some speculation in the media about their performance. Some people saying it's a fluke. It was complete luck. I'm curious if you have any comments on that situation.
Let's talk about how Brian Brandy won his championship. Let's not mince words here. He won through the sacrifice of DeMar Hamlin's body. that injury does not happen in whatever that was, week 16. I think we can safely say that Dan Zay is your 2-time FTTC champion. You hate to see Brian kind of win on the back of an injury. I did actually facilitate a meeting, closed door meeting between the Disasters and Roadrunners NAS, where they did come to an amicable agreement in regards to who would be champion. Ultimately decided that the champion on the board, the champion on the website, despite what would have happened had tragedy not struck, was ultimately the champion that we were going to honor. Just tough to see it for Dan Zay. I think he probably had every right to that championship, but honorable sports to relinquish it to Durrani. I mean, if Durrani's ever going to win one, it was going to be kind of some questionable circumstances, let's be honest. He backed into one, but 50 years from now, when you're looking at his Wikipedia page, it's just going to say 2022 champion. That's all that really matters at the end of the day.
That's some bold statements. I mean, I don't think anyone doubts that he overperformed, but called for one championship in the next 50 years. That's a bold call.
Yeah. I mean, if people are even reading that man's Wikipedia page 50 years from now, let's be honest.
All right, so let's move on a little bit from last year, and let's talk about your off-season training regimen. Now, you've obviously bounced back in 2022, finishing third place. Prior to that, you'd missed the playoffs 3 straight years in a row.
Two straight.
Excuse me, yeah, 2 straight years in a row. But honestly, quite a few missed playoffs in there. You've either been champion or third place. Did you have any updates in this previous year to really change your off-season protocol and maybe focus more on training and development?
I don't want to give too much away, but honestly, when I came into this league, made a championship run, the inaugural NiceCatchBlancoNino's lost to redacted Tom Walsh in the championship game, went on a 10-game win streak that season, followed up with 2 strong campaigns, including a semifinal after that. The league I barely was doing any research. I was just smarter than every manager. Guys were drafting QBs in the first round. I didn't have to do anything. I was one of the first managers to prioritize receivers over running backs. I was one of the first managers to really trade. I think I was the only manager that had made a trade for the first 3 years of the league. Quite frankly, I got a little lazy. The league listens to more podcasts now. They're definitely hiring professionals to help them and coach them through every step of the process. They have data scientists on their staffs, and the league caught me about 3 years ago. I rested on my laurels. I woke up, came back to it with a nice bounce back year last year, drafting at the 101 this year. You can expect big things.
All right, so Mike, you were just touching on some of your draft strategy in previous years. Talking about how you've been, pretty at the forefront of
innovative
draft strategy.
Leading it. Yeah. I invented zero RB back in 2015. I went Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski. Now they're writing all about it. You can call me the father of zero RB.
I think that's actually a curious comment, because I was looking back at your draft history a little bit earlier, and the past 5 years I see you having taken 2 RBs in the first 4 rounds in each year. That's a pretty strong trend. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I like to get a bell cow, and then I believe myself to be a bit of a running back whisperer on the waiver wire. I know the third stringer that's going to be coming up, fruitful down the stretch. I just have a way. I have a way of these young men, these young 21-year-old men. I can tell which ones are going to emerge and really be the alphas in the backfield, and I just have a way with these young studs where I see who's coming up on the forefront. So you just give me a bell cow, and I'll kind of fill in the rest of the stable from there.
Well, speaking of bell cows, you're sitting there with the 1-1. Are we going to see Christian McCaffrey number 1? Who are we looking at?
So I don't want to give my competitors an edge, but let's just say that as of now, I'm leaning toward a player who wears purple, and that's all I'm going to say.
I have a suspicion about who that might be, but we'll keep it as a mystery for our listeners out there. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the league in terms of the draft landscape. Who do you think is going to make the worst pick in the draft?
Schillinger, if Schillinger's manually drafting and he's not relying on the robots to do his drafting for him, he's always a safe bet to just make an outlandishly bad pick. Other than him, I think Nate, formerly great manager, another example of a manager who I think the times have changed and he's not adapted, but I don't really see him bouncing back from that. I think he had literally one of the worst teams on planet Earth last year. Don't know how he didn't get last place. I think his best years are frankly behind him. And I could see him reaching on a hype B rookie too early. I could see him just doing all sorts of weird things like he's known to do. I heard Jacko kind of complaining. I thought he actually might cry during the owners meeting yesterday with the 11th pick. He might make a frustration panic reach. So I guess those would be my three candidates.
Now, let me ask you, that brings up a good point about Jacko. I mean, sitting with the 1-1, is that your preferred pick for this year, or would you rather be sitting somewhere else?
I think I'd like to be – I don't mind being 1-1. I read a few articles this morning which really eased my feelings about the certainty of the player, who I shall not name, who's going at 1-1, saying that he is in a tier of his own. If you believe those rumors to be true, I'd say I'm in a good spot. Don't love being on the turn. You don't really, you go 23 or whatever it is, picks without picking, a little bit of a lack of control. I'd say this year, I do think there's probably 5-ish, 6 guys that you kind of want to have, and then there's a teardrop. So I'm happy to be in the top 6. Wouldn't have mind being at like 3 or 4, get a stud receiver, get an earlier pick on the way back, but I'm happy with where I'm at.
All right. I hear you on that. Now let's move on a little bit to some upcoming predictions for the season. These first two I'll hit you with real quick. You can fire off whoever comes to mind first. Which players win Fantasy MVP, and who you got in the Super Bowl?
Fantasy MVP, well, that's a tough one. Let's just say I'm careful about what I say. That might tip my hand a little bit.
Well, we don't want you to give anything away, but
let's just say I think it's going to be a mobile quarterback.
Okay. Perhaps one from the Bears?
Perhaps. Could be.
Okay, so in terms of Super Bowl, who you got?
Super Bowl, I like. Let's see the. Who was in it last year?
Last year was the Eagles and the Chiefs.
Eagles and the Chiefs. And the Eagles lost. Let's just go ahead and say Jets versus
Jets. Wow, bold call.
Jets versus the 49ers. Niners win.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll mark that down for you.
I've watched Hard Knocks, so I've been indoctrinated.
Yeah. It's a lot of people are going with that after watching some Hard Knocks.
I mean, yeah, I don't know about their coaching, but they have a great defense. I think Aaron Rodgers still has something left in the tank. I'm a Garrett Wilson believer.
I hear you. I think they'll be pretty solid. But let's circle back to our league for a second with some upcoming season predictions. Whose turn is it to take home the title?
I mean, unfortunately, Jason, and this may not surprise anyone, but you're looking at him right now. I think I'm primed for a nice year. I'd say, if not me, I'll say Trevor Kinsey gets his first. Knocked on the door.
Okay.
Never had an elite team. Maybe the luck rolls his way. I could see Trev in his wedding year getting that first one.
I mean, he's been dancing around for a while. It's about time that he's the star of the dance floor. Now let's talk about the opposite. Who you got finishing last?
Last place. That's a good question. I will hold it until I see everyone's drafts before my true prediction. I'm going to go ahead and say I think we see a first to worst, which would not be the first time in league history that we see that.
First to worst.
I think Brian Durante gets a little fat from the feast, ends up bottom of the heap.
I don't think he's done a punishment. I think he's been dodging it for
pizza party.
Quite some time.
He had the
pizza party. Yeah.
The PC punishment. Yeah.
True. All right, last one on some predictions. Who's going to have the fastest shotgun, and who's going to do the most shotguns?
Fastest shotgun. I mean, it's tough to bet against Steve. He's well practiced in it. He's done a lot of them. He's got good technique. I'll have to give him that. Most shotguns, you're looking at Cookie Boy. You're looking at Cookie Boy minus 300. And I feel like, Jason, you throw your hat in the ring with some really bad performances. I'll say you're runner up at plus 140.
I like a good Tuesday morning shotgun. It brings some joy.
I've got a lot of videos burned in my memory of you in your bathroom that light, that kind of unflattering bathroom light shining down on your body, and
Yep.
your wife chuckling in the background.
Yep. All right. Now, for this last segment, we got some rumors that we need to address. Obviously, the first one is the bombshell rumor that came out yesterday that you're looking at stepping down as commissioner in 2040.
Yep.
Can you give us some thoughts on that? And do you foresee the league surviving without Roger fucking Goodell?
Honestly, Jason, every day I ask that question myself. I wonder if 2040 is too early. Many of my advisors think that 2040 might be too early, that we don't have enough time to groom my successor. But honestly, I'm confident in my own ability to train someone, to mentor someone. Who knows, Jason? It could be you running the league in 2041.
I appreciate that.
If I don't like the trend things are going in, I do reserve the right, a la one of my idols, Bob Iger at Disney, to take the reins back. So I'm not ruling that out completely, but let's just say the league better be on good behavior over the next few years, because I am looking for my next successor, so that I can really focus on some of my other ventures in my twilight years.
Well, speaking of the league being on best behavior, one of the rumors that came out yesterday as well was in response to you getting handed the 1-1. How do you respond to rumors that it was fixed and the lottery ended up with your name on top? As it was meant to be, apparently.
I don't think that was surprising to hear that. I have many skeptics, critics, haters in the league, across the media landscape. If these allegations are true, my response would be, who's going to stop me?
Fair enough. And it's no guarantee to win the league, but obviously, you do get the pick of the litter, right?
Yep.
All right, last question for you. Obviously, this has been a situation that's been ongoing in FTTC for a while. It's our first chance to really report on it, though. But, Mr. Steve Blazer has had an outstanding punishment for quite some time now. I'd like to get your thoughts on that as it relates to, the overall delay and if you see him participating.
That's a tricky question. I'd love to hear Steve himself's response to this question. I certainly have my thoughts. I believe Sam has shared a G League date. What is it? September 16th, maybe. It's Saturday. I'm guessing he's going to come up, try to weasel his way out of it. And at that point, we're going to have a serious look at him and say, what's your future with this league? I think there are some other alternative punishments we're going to have to look at. But I think everyone's preference is that he sticks to his word. He's currently the only member of the league that has not done their punishment. He has a great opportunity to do so in about 2 weeks from now. I hope he recognizes the opportunity and takes it. I realize that some of it's been out of his control. He's had a wedding, there's COVID, but we're looking at a very tangible date now here. So if he can't do that, you got to start asking questions about his honor, his integrity, and quite frankly, his future with this league.
Well, Mike, we appreciate you joining us here today, being on the inaugural episode. We look forward to this year upcoming, speaking to you a few more times, and best of luck in the draft and best of luck for the season.
Thanks, Jason. It's been a pleasure.